I'm going to tell a hairy story about a train that mysteriously vanished without a trace. It was July of 1911 when a train departing from Rome to Milan disappeared, mysteriously in a tunnel. Could it have been an accident? Maybe not. Would the train have fallen off a bridge? Well, anything is possible, isn't it? But the fact is that... Or even found tracks of the train. More mysterious than the disappearance was the train's reappearance. Decades later, how was it that a train disappeared in 1911 and reappeared years later? Then, people still try to find the explanation. They say it might be about a ghost train involving supernatural things, and if it's true... This story begins at the Rome train station exactly on the 14th of June, July the 1911. A little before that day, a railway company named Zanetti had launched a campaign advertising for the inaugural journey of a new tourist train composed of the locomotive and 3 luxurious carriages that would take passengers from the capital to Maragnan. Its route passed through beautiful regions like Tuscany and Umbria, but between the regions of Emilia, Romagna, and Lombardy, the train had to go through a tunnel about 1 kilometer long. At that time, it was said to be one of the biggest tunnels from the world, a wonder of engineering since the tunnel had been dug into a large of the mountain. For the inaugural trip, the Zanetti company had selected 100 passengers from the local elite and less than 1 million passengers from the company. Members of some families from the railway company. 6 other people joined them, including engineers and the crew, with everyone on board. Locomotive.
Talking about the train.
And it moved slowly along its route to lose it, allowing the elegant passengers to enjoy the view while they had fun with violinists' sonatas. I gloss. But of course, so the toast with champagne. Everything was going well, and after all, this journey was more than satisfactory. However, in a few hours, the train arrived at the tunnel. There was a small crowd, both at the entrance and the exit, to see the new train pass through the tunnel. The train approached, and once it entered completely into the mountain's darkness, it never came out again. The small crowd waiting for him on the other side was incredulous, as there was no explanation for the disappearance. Curious and dangerous. People decided to call the police on the spot. As they entered the tunnel for inspection, the officers seemed to be terrified. But in the darkness of that tunnel, found nothing except for 2 passengers in a state of shock. There were no traces on the train and no signs of any accident. The railway company staff also inspected the track section.
They also found no news about the whereabouts of the train. There were no traces of the train, but the 2 passengers were in shock.
Could reveal what actually happened. It took about 2 days until they regained their sanity and told what one of them had witnessed. Jesus Christ. I heard a bizarre buzzing just before the tunnel entrance, inside which a strange white mist had appeared that seemed to involve the train, which was literally swallowed from within. It was a horrible experience, even though I managed to survive.
Wow.
Along with another passenger, jumping from one of the few coaches just before the locomotive entered the tunnel. The 2 of us? Yes. So? Yes. This is the last thing I remember from what happened, fearing similar events might occur. To prevent any accidents, the railway section was closed, and the Zanet Railroad Company employed many resources to cover up the incident. Given that the future and credibility of the company were at risk, nobody knew for sure. It had happened. Important people from the elite simply vanished, and despite demands from the families, somehow the company, it was hushed up. Time. Later, during World War I, an aerial bombardment completely completely blocked access to the tunnel, preventing further investigations over time. The tragic incident of the Zanet tourist train now lives only in memory. Yet people kept wondering, what happened to the passengers if they were upper middle class? If you're joking with me, then guess what? What about the company being charged? And those two witnesses and their mysterious statements? No one could say what was happening, but many said that people were living a collective outbreak. Well, the problem is that over the years, many strange things began to happen around the world. On August 12th, 1992, the Ukrainian newspaper randomly brought up the history of the 1911 train, the Arte, old, titled Ghost Train on the Roads of Ukraine. It read as follows. A 3-carriage ghost train appeared at the crossing. From the service officer, Elena Espiridonofina Chebrets. The train, with the curtains tightly closed, the doors open, and the cabin empty, was moved in absolute silence, crushing the chickens that roamed the street. It seems that from time to time, a train would appear for a few moments near the village of Zabalish in Uruguay, Ukraine. The article quoted the president of the Commission for the Study of Anomalous Phenomena of the Ukrainian Academy of Sciences. Lazily, lest you shatter, who had been studying these appearances for a long time. It was Schatzi who suggested the idea that the Tri-Phantasma, it was the Zanet train, and somehow was able to time travel. Let's Chat was fascinated by the Phanto travel and decided to try to find it. Boring of. And the second one. Right where the train used to appear, he finally managed to find it. Much more than that. Let's Chat followed in one of the dragons. The problem is that when everyone thought the mystery would finally be solved, Let's Chat simply vanished. It never was again. He disappeared on the 25th of September. In 1991, in front of several witnesses, to make this whole story even stranger, there's the testimony left by Pajorti Astimanko, a foul-mouthed
Nobody wants
man,
to work outside
by
Brazil.
the rail
Sorry.
crews, to the Russian writer Nikolai Cherkashin. Tuda Crimea said the following, I rubbed my eyes. I thought, it seemed like the trains could move without tracks. A steam locomotive and 3 passenger caravans, both the locomotive and the entire train, they are ours. That's right.
Looks
Yes,
like
it is.
pre-war, maybe even earlier.
We shall see, Ruth. Throughout the course of the old railway, I even ran to the site. No trace, no blade of grass crushed.
Will suffice. Strength.
Dasma, I have thought about it. It is not good. It could cause problems. They
This
say
event
that
happened
I'm
in
just
October.
public of 1955, and since then, sightings of a convoy with 3 passenger carriages in tow that moved as if floating, without engineers, and with curtains on the windows closed and doors open, were reported in various parts of the world. In Moscow, in the year of 1975, 1985, 1981, and 1986. In Chernobyl, shortly before the accident, at the nuclear power plant, in Norway, in the Balkans, and in many other places and times. And to make the story even more complex, it is said that inside the train, there was a rosewood box on the court. There was the skull of the well-known Ukrainian writer Nikolai Rogozhin. Legend has it that somehow this box ended up in the hands of a young man, the son of an extremely wealthy man. When his family was invited for the train trip, he thought it would be interesting to bring the rosewood box with the nickel skull to scare the passengers. The plan was to scare the passengers at the right moment, showing the content of the famous Jacaranda box. But something went wrong. Get tight.
Don't
Top it.
panic, maybe.
Through a paranormal warning, I don't know the fact. The fact is that one of the two who jumped off the train was exactly the young man who carried the box with the skull. Could it be some kind of curse? And has never heard of anything like that involving Nikolai Scully. But the legend says that even today, the skull of the well-known writer wanders in time on a ghost train that vanished in a tunnel between Emilia-Romagna and Lombardy, and that no one can find. Article draft, that's a shame, which has been published on several websites, continues to intrigue people around the world. But nobody can say for sure if it's real or not. Hooray!
I ask you, what if it's true?